17 wins in 24 games. That's Xabi Alonso's record in the first half of his Real Madrid managerial debut. And if history is any guide, those numbers are terrifying. Because there's a pattern at this club, a deadly one. In January 2016, Rafa Benitez was sacked by Madrid after 25 games. His record, 17 wins, the same number as Xabi. So here's the question, is Xabi about to follow the same fate? With or without him, there's something deeply unsettling taking place. Something that has nothing to do with just results, and everything to do with what's happening inside the team. Ever since the announcement was made that Xabi Alonso was to return to the club, not as a player, but as Real Madrid's manager, there was a wave of euphoria. Coming off the back of an unbeaten season at Bayer Leverkusen, it was clear that Xabi's appointment was well researched. He's one of the sharpest footballing minds in Europe, and the best minds always find their way to the biggest clubs. And for a while it felt like a fairy tale. Madrid started strongly. Control, structure, identity. Everything seemed to be falling into place. 7 straight wins at the start of the season before losing to rivals Atletico Madrid in the league. What followed was another 6 straight wins in all competitions before narrowly losing to Liverpool in the Champions League. Ever since that loss, Real Madrid have been struggling. While they're sitting in second spot in La Liga, the standings isn't the problem. Because if it was about form, Real Madrid would survive it. What's happening now runs deeper, into roles, responsibilities, and a dressing room that no longer moves as one. And this is where the story truly begins to unravel. Real Madrid has always been a star-studded team, a team that works around individual brilliance in attack. In defense, pretty much the same thing with big names, not just in central defense, but in their fullbacks too. Xabi promised to have a team with a clear identity, pressing with aggression, attacking with clear intentions, and defending as a unit. But the uncomfortable truth is that a Madrid squad is always selfish. Because pressing is the first issue in this team. This isn't just running, it's coordination, it's timing. It's 11 players agreeing to hunt as one. Madrid doesn't do that. They press like strangers. One player jumps, everyone else watches. And when that happens, pressing becomes worse than useless. It becomes a trap you set for yourself. Because the moment the press is broken, the midfield is bypassed. And when the midfield is bypassed, the defense is left exposed in open space. There's a moment that perfectly captures this problem.
Dembele. Doué again with those twinkle toes.
Early in the Club World Cup, PSG play out and you'll see Madrid's press doesn't arrive as a wave. Only one man actually goes. No follow-up, no compensation, no second line stepping. So what happens? In this case, PSG didn't need brilliance. They just needed 2 passes. And Madrid were instantly exposed and they conceded the goal. But this is only the first problem. This next problem is the exact reason why the first doesn't work at all. There's something far more dangerous than bad tactics in football. Lazy footballers with bad examples. Teams don't follow instructions alone. They follow the behavior of the superstars within the club. In the past, when Ronaldo was always fuming after games, people complained, saying he was too arrogant. But the truth is his attitude was perhaps the only reason why that Madrid team became the most dominant squad in Europe. But this season, Real Madrid has the exact problem, and no tweak in formation can fix it. Their biggest stars don't suffer, and when your superstars don't suffer, nobody else will. Watch Madrid closely when they lose the ball. Mbappe or Vinicius has their hands on their hips, jogging back, eyes following the play instead of bodies attacking it. And that body language sends a message louder than any team talk ever could. If Mbappe can walk, why should the midfield sprint? If Vinicius can stay high and not track back, why should the fullbacks empty their lungs covering space? In the Club World Cup, the numbers were damning. Mbappe averaged 0.7 pressing actions per match, Vinicius 1.4. Rotation plays like Arda Güler averaged 6.0 and Ferran Garcia averaged 7.0. They were doing much more work than their superstar colleagues. However, this is not an isolated event, it's happening all season. This is why Madrid's press ranks among the least effective in Europe. Europe. This is why Thibaut Courtois' comments after the PSG game mattered so much. The Belgian praised Dembele's work rate and said, "I told Dembele after the game that he was pressing a lot, and he told me that's what he had to do." Here's the damning part. He wasn't complimenting the opponent, he was exposing his own team. In particular, Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe, who don't have the same work rate as Dembele. Here's the simple rule Ernesto Valverde once explained when managing Messi. One player who doesn't press is manageable, two is impossible. This is what ultimately doomed the once star-studded PSG side, and this is what's harming Madrid at the moment. When Vinicius and Mbappe share the pitch, Madrid start defending with 9, and against elite pressing sides, 9 is never enough. We have seen it against Atletico, Liverpool, and even Manchester City, and until the people at the top of the hierarchy start leading with sacrifice instead of status, nothing underneath will ever fully hold. Speaking of something that isn't holding properly, let's talk about the third issue Madrid are facing, and that's the defense. Real Madrid have been one of the most attack-studded teams in Europe this season, arguably the best forward in the world, dangerous wingers at the sides, and a midfield packed with creativity and goals. On paper, this should be overwhelming, and at times it is. Madrid scores freely, but there's a problem they haven't solved all season. They can't defend. I mean, they can, but not at the level required to win the biggest games. Even when Madrid score 3 or 4 goals, they still look vulnerable. The clearest example came in their first loss of the season. For the first 25-30 minutes, Real were the better team, but the game flipped. Take a look at these moments. These three share a common trait: poor defense. They can't defend crosses well, they don't dominate their box, they don't clear the danger with authority, and even when they do, they concede needless set pieces. Against top opposition, that's fatal. Statistically, Madrid has one of the weakest defensive records among Europe's elite this season, not because they sit deep, but because they're consistently defending chaos. Which brings us to Eder Militao. Militao has been Madrid's most reliable defender all season, but even he looks stretched. Why? Because he's asked to defend too much space, too often, with too little protection. Madrid's press, as we've established earlier, is broken. And once the midfield is bypassed, Militao isn't defending a striker. He's the only elite player left to defend the situation. He and Dean Howson seems to be the only reliable centre-backs for now. Alaba has injury issues. Raul Asensio has regressed tremendously. And then there's Antonio Rudiger. Once the defensive enforcer, the big game monster, the defender trusted to handle anyone, even Erling Haaland. This season he's been a shadow of his former self. Injuries have taken its toll, age has gotten to him, and even Haaland, a matchup Rudiger once thrived on, got the better of him last time out. So without a pressing unit up front, the problems aren't just personnels, they're about exposure. And when a team built on attack and firepower has to score 4 just to survive, eventually the defense will break. And right now, Real Madrid are dangerously unbalanced. But all these would have been easily fixed if Xabi Alonso hadn't created this final problem by himself. At the Club World Cup, Gonzalo Garcia was the joint top scorer with 5 goals. But beyond his goals, he was actually the best fit for the manager's system. When Garcia played, Madrid made sense. He pressed from the front, he made selfless runs that dragged defenders out of position. He linked midfield to attack instead of isolating it. He played like someone who understood the system and believed in it. With Garcia on the pitch, Madrid didn't attack as individuals, they attacked as a unit. And the difference was obvious. Then suddenly, he disappeared. He, alongside Endrick, has been frozen out, benched, reduced to an afterthought, and the moment he left the lineup, the structure collapsed again. Mbappe and Vinicius have consistently struggled to determine who truly owns the left side of the attack, so they sometimes drift away out of position, and it totally affects the midfield because they have no focal point of attack or defense. Back then, Xabi kept saying the same thing in interviews. He wants players who buy into the system, who works without the ball, who executes the press properly. Gonzalo Garcia is exactly that player, but he doesn't play. Why? Because big names have to. Benching Mbappe or Vinicius wouldn't just be a tactical decision, it would be a political one. And at Madrid, politics always have the biggest noise. That same problem shows up in midfield. Before Jude Bellingham returned from injury, Madrid looked balanced. Simple 4-3-3, clear roles, clear hierarchy. Arda Güler played high, where his creativity mattered. The team pressed well, the structure held. Then Bellingham came back, and all of a sudden we see two players who thrive in the same advanced zones. But instead of using what was already working, Güler was dropped deeper, almost a defensive midfielder. Bellingham pushed forward, and suddenly, nothing fits. Güler isn't built to defend space or win duels. Bellingham looks unsure of his role. One moment he's a second striker, the next he's a number 10, then a box-to-box 8. The system has lost its clarity. While the solution seems pretty obvious, it's also important to note that the reason Real Madrid managers haven't done it is more political than tactical. As much as managers of Real Madrid are given the freedom to carry out their works on the pitch, they'll always have Florentino Perez watching with close intent. The man who started the Galacticos and was successful with it will insist on the players that need to be involved, will insist on the players that fits the club's status, not tactics. Before Xabi Alonso, managers of Real Madrid were excellent in man management. And with the ever-changing style of football taking place, Real Madrid either needs to give their managers a chance to deliver their ideas, or just be stuck in their traditional way of building a Galactico squad. This season alone, when Madrid looked balanced, it wasn't when their team was the most glamorous, it was when the system fit. But the big names always have to play. And unless Madrid fully commits, not partially or selectively, the same problems will continue to resurface. This may not be the best Madrid team at the moment, so if you're missing the real Real, check out this video on your screen. Was this the best Real Madrid team ever?